Speaking on that, you mentioned something earlier on about power, and I want to sort of explore the relationship between love and power, and then thinking about how if I live for the next 50 years, I have a responsibility to not let the world in 50 years be as it is now.
Absolutely.
Right? Like at least within my sphere of change, right? Like
exactly.
of influence. Let's dive into the Black community and talk about love and power and that sphere of change as Black men. Like, how do we start to think about love as a letting go of power, of sharing of power,
right?
So that life can be better for other people, so that I don't have to compare this person to my sister just to understand their humanity, right? What kind of what happened to us for us to have to go through that entire process?
Right. It's interesting because I guess if you were to look back into the past and try and trace the origins of where this whole thing started, I don't know where it started, but I can almost guarantee that it started with, it's at the end of the day, things kind of always tie back to imperialism, colonialism, and it goes into racism. These things are always so well interconnected, and we kind of live in the now and kind of forget the origins of a lot of these things. Even behaviors towards men and women, even back when the world was kind of thriving off of enslaved people. Even back then, that dynamic of men and women was still different. Men were still looked at as still superior for whatever reason, looking down on women, and that same dynamic of somebody being superior is what they then escalated to a slavery, and then it's okay, well, now we can collectively be white people and look down on these people, and it keeps growing and going forward. And what they taught them as a slave, you kind of only have one reference, which is your master, or whatever, how they behave, right? And that's kind of your view of the world, because they kind of block you from everything else. And you see them treat women negatively. You see them isolate the men from the women, even in within the slave populations. And that kind of is reinforcing that men and women are somehow different, and on different levels are useful for different things. And that separation, that's kind of truly unnecessary, because there is no logic behind why people think a man can do something better than a woman can do. It really doesn't make